3, 2, 1, and I'm live. What just happened to...
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
No, why is it...
You had the links. What just happened?
Is that not live? Hmm?
Yeah, can you put the links back in the message? I clicked the button and it like kicked me out of the Hangout.
Oh, okay, that's what happened there. I was like, I thought that was something on my end. Because I was like,
Oh,
you just disappeared from my live stream. Alright, I'll send the links again. Too many windows.
yeah,
Alright.
that's why I accidentally clicked something.
Yeah, because I saw you drop out and thought that was some problem on my end. Alright. Okay, sorry about the technical difficulties. Running a little late, and it's been like 2 weeks since we've been able to do one of these because of scheduling conflicts, I should say. Tuesdays are no longer a good night for me. Wednesdays and Thursdays are going to be my only available nights. Does Thursdays work for you? Or is that like an every other Thursday thing?
Uh, Probably every other Thursday, but I
Yeah.
can work around that. We'll see.
Yeah, well,
I'd still be able to do something with that.
yeah. Because I could try again on Mondays, but for some reason Mondays seem to be really busy, and I end up staying late for work on Mondays, and then it's
Yeah, I'm in the
trying
same
to get
boat.
trying to get a stream set up when you only have like half an hour of prep or whatever. And I'm like today I had like an hour and a half or more, and I was still running late. So, and I'm guessing Fridays is not a good night, and weekends are out. Yeah.
Yeah, we can
What
shoot for Thursdays and see what happens.
What about Wednesdays? Is that an every other Wednesday thing as well? So there's no...
No, that would be every Wednesday where I've got my kids.
Okay.
So Thursday would probably be a better.
Yeah. So we're gonna try to start for every Thursday going here on out. All right. But welcome to the Humane Mind Live episode 121. Doofus and Drumpf. I wanted to keep kind of the original Goofus and Gallant, but as I was writing it out, I was kind of like, nah, the Doofus and Drumpf makes more sense given the events of the past couple of weeks. Because I don't think either of them quite comes out being the good guy. I mean, one is obviously worse than the other, but even so, like the Goofus and Gallants is the highlight little cartoons where Goofus was always doing something wrong, and Gallant was always doing the right thing. So when I was putting together this last week, I was kind of like I saw these two different town halls, one with Biden and one with Trump, and I was like, man, that is like night and day. The difference between these guys, it is. But I don't think Trump is quite as polished as Gallant comes off in those little cartoons. So I'm going with Doofus and Drumpf, because Drumpf is a stupid like that was a thing started by John Oliver, and it's such a stupid insult. It's kind of like a playground. It's like, like there are insults that really that dig deep and hurt, but this is kind of like you're stupid. You're like, okay. Drumpf. It's kind of like the okay. Yeah, or like you're not as tall as you think you are, or something stupid. I was like, dude, I just I just called you a racist, and you come back with something, and you come back with, oh yeah, well you're not very bright. I'm like, one of these, like there's
So
insults
that's where
that...
that name came from, Drum.
Yeah, Drumpf was actually his great grandfather's name, so his grandfather changed it to Trump. So he's the third, or it might have been one further back, but it was somewhere a couple of generations back that changed it from Drumpf to Trump. And John Oliver
Oh,
tried to make that a insult, and it's like, okay. I mean, if that's what you're going with an insult, there's a there's a whole lot of things you could say about Trump that are actually like you know, that would actually have some teeth, and that one just doesn't. It's like, oh, who cares? All right. In addition to that, we'll be talking about Dallas Moyers Club. Now, see, the guy's name is Moye with a little like asterisk or a little accent above the E, but I kept hearing people say Moyer, and I'm like, but there's no R, but it might be Moye. Anyway, Dallas Moyer's Club, and that is like club as in a cudgel. And then Kay lays the smackdown. I'm pretty proud of that. I came up with that just a couple seconds before going live. I was like, oh, all it says is press secretary. That's not fun to say. So I was trying to come up with something, but yeah, that's pretty good. And then a closing clip that I think you'll enjoy. So there's a lot of stuff that came out this last week that I'm gonna kind of gloss over because I think we'll move that to, if we get the stream next week, try to do more there on those, because that's like the investigation into Flynn, the Ahmaud Arbery stuff. I'm gonna touch a little bit on the investigation into Flynn, because that does relate to Biden, but there's so much information that came out in the past couple of weeks, or the past week, that I'm like, man, there's too much to try to pack into one, hopefully less than 2 hour stream. So there's a couple of things I had to push back, but the Ahmaud Arbery is a very fascinating story, and like there's one more topic that I wanted to kind of, and while I'm thinking about it, this will be my lead into the topic here, the crappy medium. Now, this is something that has been bugging me because Dave Rubin's got his new book out, and he's been doing shows where he's inviting people on to talk about his book and stuff like that. And and Tim Pool has also been doing this a lot in his more recent videos. The idea that one side says one thing, the other side says another thing, and the truth lies somewhere in the middle. Tim Pool does this a ton, and Dave Rubin has been doing this nearly every show that he's been talking about his book. And I'm like, that is a very incorrect worldview. The idea that...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the idea that, well, usually the truth lies somewhere in the middle. And that is very dangerous when you're talking about...
In generic terms, but like if you were to compare that to, say, current political views and climate, that's a big no, because 15 years ago, everybody was here. On the left, it's over here. So now if you were to say it's in the middle, you've just shifted the entire Overton window from where it was a few years ago, while the right is still generally where they've always been.
Yeah. And
conservative viewpoints have changed somewhat and actually become a little more liberal in some areas.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's not accurate at all.
Well, and I think both of them are kind of doing it to justify their own positions. And I'm like, I can understand that, Tim Pool is a filthy centrist, and Dave Rubin is kind of on the same boat. He used to be on the left, and he came to the middle. Tim Pool, from what I've seen of his stuff, he's always been kind of hovering around the middle. Like, Dave Rubin, he says he was in the middle, and he hasn't really changed, but I can see some of his opinions and some of what he thinks about things. Like, yeah, you used to be more left than you are now. Now, I think he's a centrist now. Or possibly to the right of center, but...
I think he is old liberal, like...
Yes, yeah, he's...
early 2000s, 1990s Democrat, that type of liberal.
Yeah, but there were some things that he either asked questions about or wasn't aware of when he first started his show and he first started doing interviews with people, and some of the positions that he held when he would, push back against people, and now whenever somebody says something, he's in full agreement with it on those particular topics, and I'm like, that's a change, and maybe he doesn't see it. But both of them so he was like, so in one thing that Ruben has been talking about, he's like, oh yeah, there's a, one area I know conservatives will disagree with me on in my Don't Burn This book is my stance on abortion. And I'm like, yeah, because he agrees that it is terminating a life, but still is in favor of allowing abortion. And to me that seems like a very dangerous position to hold, because and the only way you could get there is if you think the truth lies somewhere in the middle, like a compromise. And on that topic, and I'm like, well, if you think it's a life and you're ending it prematurely, that's murder. In what world does murder sometimes acceptable? Or oh well, maybe we'll just compromise on this one area when it regarding murder.
Not really any middle ground on that topic. It's either you support it or you're against it. Just to say, I know it's killing, but I'll sit in the middle. And other, if we still have that choice, so just let people have that choice. But it's still killing, so either you're against killing or you're for it. What is the middle ground there?
There shouldn't be a middle ground. Well, there shouldn't be a for it and a middle ground. There should just be outright against it. And eventually, I think we'll get there as a society where everybody's like, oh, yeah, that's a... hopefully, it gets the stigma of slavery that exists in the U.S. Because the stigma against slavery does not exist in a bunch of other countries that actively participate in slavery. In the U.S., you mentioned slavery, and it's like, oh yeah, dude, why would anybody have ever bought into that system, or, been like, well, we hate the system, but we're going to participate. You look at it now, like, dude, those people were morally repugnant. One of these days, we'll be looking, like, hopefully within my lifetime, we'll look at abortion and be like, yeah, people who thought that this was okay were morally repugnant. Same way slave owners, that's it should have that same social stigma. But the reason Dave Rubin is in the position he's in, he says he is reluctantly pro-choice. The only way you could get to that is because you say there's two options. You're either pro-choice or you're pro-life. And he's like, well, if I think on most topics the solution is actually somewhere in the middle, okay, then I am pro-choice, but I am reluctantly so. And I was like, that's in between. It's like, because, he talks about, he doesn't want up to 9 months and all that sort. He's talking about first trimester abortion and all that sort of thing. So that's not as bad as, most people are talking about late term abortion, or up until birth, or some cases in the, with a North Carolina governor after birth.
Make it real comfortable, put it in a basket, and then we'll decide on whether to keep the baby or what.
But see,
talking about? It's already born.
The problem with that worldview is if the answer to 1 + 1 is 2, and I say the answer is 2, but somebody else says the answer is 4, well, Dave Rubin would be like, oh, well then, let's agree on 3. Tim Pool would come along and be like, well, this guy's saying 4, this guy's saying 2. Let's go 3. Let's split the difference.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah, let's split the difference and say 3. 3 is probably accurate and close to the truth. And I'm sitting over here like, no. What?
Yeah.
That's how you get, because that's how somebody who is wrong can still get away with it, or still make a little bit of progress. But if you are correct and you're standing on the truth, you can only lose with these compromises. And so the idea that the truth is, or the correct perspective is always somewhere in the middle, will always deter you away from the truth. Because all it takes is one person taking 2 steps away from the truth, and if you're compromising, you're 1 step away from the truth. You can only ever deviate from the truth. Like, you could be wrong no matter which choice. We've seen that in a lot of areas where it's like, this person said one thing, this person said another thing, both of them were wrong. Okay, but if your attitude is always, well, the truth is somewhere in between, you're more likely to miss out on the truth. And that's why there's a couple other people who've made, I was in an interview with Gadsad where he was making similar he wasn't talking about. It's more apparent for Dave Rubin and Tim Pool because they say, oh well, both of them kind of. Well, yeah, the truth is kind of somewhere in between. Somewhere in between, I think even Andrew Klavan has made that statement regarding news stories, and that kind of segues into the next discussion, which is the Tara Reid thing regarding Joe Biden, where Joe Biden's saying nothing happened, Tara Reid is saying that he sexually abused her, and people are looking, well, I don't know what's going on, but likely it's something in between the two that actually occurred.
How could that be in between? Either it did or it didn't happen.
Yeah, well, at first I thought, like I said on the last stream, I thought she was just using it for political gain and all that sort of stuff, but as more and more information is coming out, it's like, oh, this seems more like a legitimate concern. And that takes us to the first clip I've got queued up there. So I don't know how much I'm going to play of this, because it is an 18-minute interview, but this was really surprising, because this is on MSNBC, and Mika Brzezinski takes Joe Biden kind of rakes him over the coals, which is unexpected, because usually these hosts softball Democrats. So this was a breath of fresh air.
They've been doing that for Joe Biden for like the last year and a half. Yeah,
treating them with kid gloves, and she doesn't hold back at all.
Reporting here, like a proper. What's happening?
Yeah, it was a breath of fresh air. So I'm gonna play a little bit of this.
Nominee for president, former Vice President Joe Biden. Mr. Vice President, thank you for coming on the show this morning. We have a lot we want to ask you this morning. Okay. Joe and Willie will.
And there he is, coughing into his hand again instead of into his elbow, and but it's okay because he's by himself in his house, and I'm like, if it's that means it's not a habit. It's a habit of coughing into your hand. It's not a habit of doing this if you always cough into your hand. You're supposed to get the habit of coughing into your elbow or into a article of clothing. Shows that he doesn't have that habit because he continually coughs. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, throughout the
just
interview.
Just a moment for questions on how you would handle this pandemic, the campaign, and other news of the day. But at the start, it's just going to be you and me. And I want to get right to the allegation made against you by Tara Reid. So the former Senate aide accuses you of sexual assault. And please, to our viewers, please excuse the graphic nature of this, but I want to make sure that there is no question as to what we're talking about. She says in 1993, Mr. Vice President, that you pinned her against the wall and reached under her clothing and penetrated her with your fingers. Would you please go on the record with the American people? Did you sexually assault Tara Reid?
No, it is not true. I'm saying unequivocally, it never happened. And it didn't. It never happened.
Yeah, there's a little bit of the wording there that seems kind of off. I mean, I get the fundamental rejection of it, but it never happened. It's like, it's...
Well, I've heard some people commenting, but
yeah,
sometimes it's not necessarily a double negative, because a double negative would be like, never not.
Yeah.
If you say never, it could be an extra emphasis, but I think it's just Joe Biden mumbling.
Yeah, it's just like, Joe Biden mumbling, but
talking about or losing track of his speech, and his brain has to restart. Where am I? What am I saying?
Who stopped? Why am I stopping?
So.
But no, but that to me kind of raises a red flag. Not it's because it's like, I get that's ridiculous. That didn't happen. But it's like nope, that did not happen. Is never.
That I can recall, or that I remember anybody else that know of things, or he's just kind of.
I don't know if that is that to me that comes off as a kind of a deflection tactic. I don't know if that's correct, because it, like, if something's not true, you just, like, no, this would be something I could just say, nope, that's ridiculous, and it's like an absurd absurd claim requires proof. Or sorry, the Hitchens extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Otherwise, they can be dismissed without evidence. Anybody who has and especially someone who I would think has a career in politics and all sorts of things. Like, if she claims this happened, she's gonna have to provide some evidence because it doesn't exist. Yeah. This didn't happen.
I guess there could be two things because I think in the interview he later does say, it never happened, but that's kind of what you're supposed to lead with.
Yes.
And say, no, it never happened, and I don't recall a claim ever being filed. It would have been just short and simple.
And as far as the people who are with him in his campaign and his staff, he should have PR people be like, okay, we know this question is going to come up. When it does, this is the kind of response you should be prepared to give. But for some reason, he's just saying, oh, if I just add enough nevers or enough no's or enough nots or didn't in there, it's going to come off as, oh, okay, did you see how many no's he said in there? That means he definitely didn't do it. What? To me, that...
kind of like a parent, hey, Jimmy, did you take a cookie out of the jar before dinner? And he's sitting there like, well, there's all kinds of kids in the world, and some kids take cookies and others don't. And, I don't recall me being in that group that would have taken cookies. And the mom's just like, yes or no? Just
yeah, that's why it comes off as, or like, well, if I'm very, 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 very certain. Like, dude, what? Why did you throw all this? Every time you're saying very, it makes you seem less certain.
Yeah. Yeah. Not sure what his attempt to prove or what he's stating there.
Yeah, it's
just or no.
I mean, it might be a case of this was something like if this was just he was scrambling to find some better way of saying it and couldn't come up with anything in time. But someone who's lived their life in politics, you would think they would kind of be a little more prepared for this and be like, okay, when this comes up, this is what I'm going to say, and all right, boom. Because I can say this is truthful, and this is my prepared statement. But for some reason, he's trying to go off the cuff, and it comes off sounding like he's scrambling. So that's not ever something you want, especially when you're being accused of sexual assault. But all right, that's not the caught red-handed sort of thing. But there's a couple other things that are raising more red flags as this goes on.
Do you remember her? Do you remember any types of complaints that she might have made?
I don't remember any type of complaint she may have made. It was 27 years ago. And
all right, I'm going to pause that. Again, he did cough into his hand earlier, but the coughing in the middle of the sentence like that, again, that comes off as a tell, not a... Because he didn't raise his hand. It's like, oh, excuse me. No, it's just... He's... Like, I don't know if this is something about Joe Biden, but this is, again, when you're from the outside looking in, if you see somebody responding and they cough like that in the middle of a response, you're like, that's one of those involuntary reflexes of like, what I'm saying is not true. That's what it... Again, that might be my personal bias coming through, and I'm reading too much into that. But that's... Like...
It's hard to say with him. Yeah. Like when he's doing public speaking and already has a speech or something presented, he seems to talk a little better. Mm-hmm. But when he just starts talking like freeform, and you see all these weird gaffes, goofs, and silly things like with his stories that he's just making up. But then you do him doing that weird like mid-sentence cough or let me clear my throat while my brain's catching up to what I'm trying to say. It's almost like that. Like his mouth is wanting to keep moving. So it's a involuntary stall tactic while his brain continues to build a story or what he's trying to say.
And those involuntary stall tactics, if you're watching like body language experts or shows like Lie to Me and that sort of thing, those are the kinds of things that that they focus on and they pick up on in order to tell if someone, like, hey, this guy's probably lying.
Yep. But yeah, I see him doing that more during direct interviews or when he's was kind of doing his campaign thing and talking to people live after he's done his main speech.
Yeah.
You see that kind of weird clearing or whatever he's doing there. That seems to pop up more.
And unlike the previous cop where he put his hand up and all that sort of thing, this one doesn't seem like it seems somewhat forced. That's probably my own bias slant or whatever, but
yeah,
it doesn't seem to be a natural cough or just like, oh well, that was unexpected sort of thing, but it seems to be in like what he's doing mid word or mid sentence or and something like that is again, or like drinking water in the middle. It would be one of those types of things where it's again trying to get a little bit of extra time, which in order to come up with an answer or something like that, which for this sort of thing should just be a nope, not to my knowledge, or if it did happen, I don't remember, and that should point out how insignificant this insignificant our interactions with each other were.
Yeah,
but something along those lines, but shouldn't be something that you have to think and come up with an answer, and yet that seems to be what he's doing when answering these questions.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't remember, nor does anyone else that I'm aware of. And the fact is that I don't remember. I don't remember any complaint ever having been made.
Have you or your campaign, have you reached out to her?
No, I have not reached out to her. It was 27 years ago. This never happened. And when she first made the claim, we made it clear that it never happened. And that's as simple as that.
All right, I'm going to pause it there because he just said when she first made the claim, they made it clear. No. When she first made the claim, it was crickets on it for weeks before there was an official statement from Biden's campaign. Or anything about him talking about it, or even people bringing it up to him. So, like, this has been, I think it's been about a month, or maybe over a month, when she was first bringing these up, and this specific allegation, because I think she's talked about him in the past.
Yeah, it's been over a month now.
Yeah. So,
because we were talking about this 2 weeks ago, and then that was after you had already started to shift your mind and say maybe there is some credibility.
Yeah.
So it's been over a month when she first came out with this. Yeah.
And he only started talking about this like a week or two ago, and it's like, well, wait, you immediately addressed it? Not from what everybody else can see, but all right.
In the past 30 minutes or so, you released a statement on Medium, and among other things, you write this: there's only one place a complaint of this kind could be, the National Archives. I am requesting that the Secretary of State the Senate ask the archives to identify any record of the complaint she alleges she filed. If there was any such complaint, the record will be there. Are you preparing us for a complaint that might be revealed in some way?
Okay.
Are you
pausing it at about 2:30, because she's talking about a statement where the record would be. That is, other people have talked about this. That is incorrect. That's not where this particular complaint would be, but the place where, and if it is available and it's something that can be released to the public, it might be, and they do get into this in this interview, the records that were sent to the university, and I've drawn a blank on which university currently, but there's
Maryland?
I think it might be Maryland, but they talk about that in this interview, but there is a separate repository that they were talking about. But those records are sealed until like 2043 or something crazy like that. And it's like, but if there is a record concerning Tara Reade and her complaint against Joe Biden, in those documents, even if they're sealed till like 2043, that should be something like, hey, somebody with the appropriate clearance should be able to go through those records, do a search of them, and be like, yeah, there's no, this thing from Tara Reid doesn't exist. So, but if it's in there, somebody with the appropriate permissions or need to know should be able to go through those archives and get this one record and be like, okay, here's a complaint she filed in 1993. They should be able to make that one record rather than unsealing all of them. But for some reason, it's that repository that's like, oh, all the records in there are sealed till 2043, because that's presumably after he'll be out of public life, and it's so many years after public life, and I think it's after he left the Senate, and so it's 2043 is the year that they're saying. It's like, yeah, that if that document exists, it's in this place that nobody can look at for, until 20 years from now. That is absolutely ridiculous. There's no reason for that to be the case, and this is something that's true for all of Congress. Like, I think it's all senators that have these types of complaints or stuff that was, of this nature while they were serving as senators. They all kind of have their records sealed in this repository, and it's like, what? That's absolutely insane. That means somebody could have committed murder while they were a senator or something like that, and it's like, oh, well, there's some document that points it out, but not until I'm out of office for like 30 years, and then you can.
Of that? Is that so if people are just filing bogus claims, it doesn't affect the personal lives of senators, like congressmen and women?
Well, if it was a bogus claim, there should be some way to deal with that. And it's like, but the only thing I could think is like they're hiding dirt. Like, oh, hey, this guy was caught embezzling, and then he got a slap on the wrist from the Senate, but they buried the record in order to help, in order to keep his reputation, or stuff like that. And you're like, wait, if we knew half of the stuff that these politicians were doing and were getting away with, and maybe they get sanctioned inside the Senate, or maybe they get some kind of reprimand internally, but if that's like, oh, but that's internal stuff. Like, if the voters who put them into office, if they knew about this stuff, would they be like, no, I'm not voting for that guy again. I'm not voting for them again. They crashed into somebody while they were drunk driving. I'm not gonna. But those types of things could be in this repository. I'm like, but if somebody's like making up a assault allegation against them, see, this is one of the things that is pretty different compared to the Kavanaugh situation. Is Tara Reid has filed a police report. She has filed formal charges against Biden concerning this. That's like, well, at that point, if they can prove, like, at that point, this is something that can go to trial. The DA can choose to, choose to charge Biden with this. Well, we'll see how that goes. I mean, considering this is the politically charged, I don't know if that case is, where that case is going to go. Although, I think if the victim keeps pushing, I don't think the DA actually has a choice, if I'm not mistaken. It's like, I don't know if somebody's saying, like, I'm the victim here, you do something. At least this has to see trial. I would hope that there's some kind of provision for that.
The police report, that's recent?
I think it's a couple of weeks, like maybe.
Well,
maybe
it's not like a police report that was filed 27 years ago.
No. This is within the last year. So it's since she's made these allegations. So she first accused Biden of doing this, and after that has said, okay, I'm taking this to the police, making this official.
So the way I see the situation is, it does look like there's more proof and support from Tara Reid's side, or her perspective, because there's friends and family and stuff saying, we heard about these claims 27 years ago, but it died down, disappeared. 27 years later, it only pops up right after Bernie drops out of the race.
Yeah.
and she's a Bernie supporter, so still Democrat supporter.
But
It almost seems like, yes,
it was
this could have
technically
happened.
before Bernie dropped out, because he was still in it, but he was a lame duck at the point when these allegations came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had no path to get the nomination.
That would be my only issue with this, is it does seem there's more of a possibility than, say, the claims during the Kavanaugh case, where there was nothing, no corroborating witnesses. In fact, everybody else that was supposed to be witness said, nope, never went to that party, don't know what, can't back that up. So it seems there's more potentiality that this is a valid claim. It's just odd bringing it up 27 years after the fact, because he was vice president and for 8 years.
Yeah.
Why not bring it up during his election or during his the inauguration of Obama, when he was first being put in as vice president, before any of that happened? Why now?
Yeah, that's so while I am thinking it's more likely something happened than not, that's the big, I was like, well, to me that is the reason for doubt, as opposed to, like, I think I'm on Tara Reid's side, and that I think she's telling the truth, and I think this did happen. Mm-hmm. That the
politically motivated timing.
Yeah, it's like, that makes this hard for me to hold firm to that, because, I mean, this is not something I would put money on. I'm leaning more towards that something probably did happen, but this is like, somebody was like, oh, well, you're gonna bet $1,000. I'm gonna be like, no, I'm not taking that bet. No, I'll talk about the Ahmaud Arbery, and if you were talking about $1,000 on whether, I don't know if you're familiar with that situation. That's the guy who was jogging and got shot by two rednecks.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, my money is on that he was criminal. He was either robbing that house or he was casing it to rob later. And those guys were in the right. I would put money on those guys being found not guilty, and this leading to another kind of riot, because the media is painting him as this is going to be Michael Brown 2.0.
Yeah. Because if you're watching the video, he's not out for a jog. Dude's like running across the street and runs toward the truck. Already a little weird. That doesn't look like he's out for a jog. Looks like he's either running away or running to confrontation. And then they were saying it was a struggle, and that's when he got shot.
Yeah. So, but
we don't even know if they were chasing him to shoot him down.
Well, LeBron James said he was shot because he was out jogging. Other people are saying, oh, it was vigilante justice, and these guys didn't have the authority to chase him down and try to make a citizen's arrest. All of that goes out the window, because the guy ran at them, tried to take the shotgun away from the other man, and got shot in the process of trying to take away somebody else's gun. Regardless of the other circumstances, that is stand your ground, that is self-defense. If you have a firearm and somebody tries to take it from you, and you shoot them in the process, or they shoot themselves because they're struggling over the gun, you are, like, if you, as the gun owner, you are blameless. That I don't care. Like this.
That's exactly what happened with the Michael Brown case.
Yeah.
Because he ran at the cop, tried to tackle him, and then the cop said he was reaching for his gun. Yeah. That's why he got shot.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if you saw the Stefan Monalou when he was talking about this. Like, yeah, he's got a pretty in-depth analysis of this. And then Robert Barnes is talking about this on Viva Frei as well. Although Robert Barnes he takes kind of a wishy-washy, and also Viva Frei as well. Both of them, I'm like, have this kind of in-between stance. And I'm like, no, this seems pretty cut and dry to me. But Robert Barnes did mention something. He's like, yeah, with these particular cases, that's what makes you think that these guys were in the right, is because the way that they are politicized. And he mentioned this, and I was like, yeah, that is exactly true. Because when it comes to Michael Brown, it's like, yeah, this guy was a criminal, had a reputation, was trying to take the cop's gun, and yet he's, plastered in the media as if he's a saint or something like that was innocently shot.
Makes sense because for the Michael Brown case,
yeah,
there was, I guess it's called an APB or a notice, sent out for him.
Yes.
Because he just got called into the police for having stolen stuff from that corner store.
Yeah.
Or the, whatever market. So why was all of that left out for days or weeks? Just saying, hey, he's a poor, innocent young dude just walking around, cop pulls up, says, hey, I'm going to shoot you. And then shoots him. Why is that the story painted? Where does that come from?
Well,
and in this situation,
so I don't know if you saw the Viva
dude,
Fry.
Obviously, no sweat man, not out there jogging and running and, waving, hey, guys, how's it going? That's not in the video. He's running across the street and approaches the driver's side of the truck. You can see it. And there was also a police
the passenger side. He's running in front of the truck to the passenger side because that's where
the video I saw flipped.
Right?
I saw him running right
because
towards the left.
Yeah. Because
like across the front of the truck. Anyways.
Yeah. Okay, so it might have been a reversed image because whatever. Yeah, so because the one I saw, he's on the left and he runs across the truck to the passenger. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really clear in the video. Not out for a jog, and the only thing I'm not sure of, I have to do more reading, is I thought there was already a police report to someone matching his description.
No, so the homeowner. I guess it's a little more than I wanted to. I'll talk about this because it is pretty interesting, and I brought it up, so might as well. Okay, so the situation is there was a homeowner who has a house that is being either under reconstruction or being built. That's not really clear from what people I was listening to, but it's open and you can tell that there's exposed interior of the building, and the owner of it set up security cameras inside there, and they've got this Ahmaud Arbery in there on multiple times walking around the place at night, and the homeowner has mentioned that he's had copper stolen from that property, like copper pipes stole out of the house. So that's why they set up the security cameras, and they've got this guy going in there multiple times at night. So the other thing is the father, so it's a father and son that were in the truck that were chasing or driving down and that got into the scuffle with Ahmaud Arbery. The father is a former police officer who was involved in the case for this Ahmaud Arbery guy. So Ahmaud Arbery, when he was in high school, brought a gun to the high school, and he had charges against him for that, but was put on probation for possession of a gun and or I think it's illegal possession of a gun or something along those lines. But he was put on probation, and then after that, I don't know if it was a year later or a couple of years later, he was caught shoplifting, which would have been a violation of his probation, which he should have saw his jail time. But instead, nothing happened, and he was released again. And so the official charge is shoplifting, although the speculation is that it was something more than just minor shoplifting, that he took a plea for shoplifting to lessen the crime and shorten the court case, which kind of happens a lot for petty criminals.
So, but the odd thing with these situations is he's got a previous rap sheet.
Yes.
Same with the thing with Michael Brown.
Yes.
Previous rap sheet. What are the chances of somebody who has known run-ins with the law, already has multiple confrontations, randomly getting shot?
Not very high. The only one that comes to mind is the Philando Castile situation.
Yeah.
And that was definitely on the cop. That was an overreaction on his part. I can kind of see why he reacted that way, but that is something that is a failure in training, and he was not he did not take the appropriate safety precautions in that situation. He shot too soon, and if I remember correctly, he got he did not get off scot-free. I'm pretty sure he lost his job over that. I don't know if he ever saw jail time, but I don't think he is a cop anymore, if I remember correctly on that. The rest of these examples and the Philando Castile thing, it didn't cause a riot, or that one was kind of downplayed for the most part. But then you look at all these other, the Trayvon Martins and the one guy in Milwaukee where they burned down that city. Like, those incidents, you're like, yeah, these are not, so and this is something Robert Barnes talked about, is like, the incidents they choose to broadcast and to politicize and, make national news and headlines, they don't choose the guy with, like, the perfect record, who was minding his own business and was actually abused by cops, because those incidents do occur. But those incidents, they don't get national headlines. They don't, they're not getting everybody up in arms over that. And the reason for that is because people looking at the information are like, oh, dude, yeah, these cops were definitely in the wrong. And when the cops go to trial, they get arrested. They get sent to prison, or they get punished for that.
Yeah.
But
so
they choose. They pick.
Doesn't get justice in their eyes.
Yeah, where it looks like these guys were in the wrong, and the black guy got shot, and he was just minding his own business, and these and he's getting harassed by the police, or he's getting harassed by these hillbillies, these good old boys, and he ends up dying over it, and then they go to trial, and then they get acquitted, and then it costs.
There was a story like this just a couple months ago, where the police shot this kid, and they were saying, hey, he's just some young kid, and that, police brutality. Turns out he was trying to, I think, went to go buy a car, but was known for, like, dealing drugs or something, and went out of state to go pick up a car, and then ended up getting shot by police because they were tracking him or something. Oh, man, what was that kid's name?
But the way it
was... Same story, where he's already had run-ins with the law.
Yeah.
They already knew who he was because he's got a rap sheet, and he ended up getting shot because he took his car and was trying to run into the other police car. And he got out, and so they shot him.
And so these stories that tend to get national attention, they tend to be stories where it looks a certain way, where it looks like, oh, this guy was just he's the victim of racism and systematic racism, and that makes them look like they're the victims, and people looking at it rationally be like, wait, no, I think there's more to this, and then they get to, those guys, see how prevalent racism is in the U.S. because all of these people are coming out to defend the guys who shot this innocent black man. That's it. I was like, so anytime a story tends to get national attention like this, people looking at it rationally be like, no, this guy was clearly in the wrong, made poor choices, and that cost him his life. But if you come out and say that, you get blasted as the racist and all. They choose these stories because they know there's that ambiguity where some people who have a casual awareness of the situation will have one view of it, and then they broadcast that nationwide and on various news channels. So then when the jury comes back and says we find them not guilty, then they're like up in arms and they're like, oh, look how terrible the system is. They let another racist murderer off. It's exclusively
having facts.
Yeah, well, it seems like these are designed specifically to increase racial tensions, but had they championed like the actual victims, like, okay, this is clear cut, these guys were in the wrong, they planted drugs on them, they planted weapons on them, these guys were corrupt cops. The reason they don't highlight those stories is because those are the guys who end up behind bars. Those are the cops who do go to jail. Those are the cops. The juries come back and are like, no, these guys are guilty. But the media doesn't highlight those stories because they want to build that racial tension. That's something Barnes mentioned, and I'm like, yeah, I'm in 100% agreement with him. Which makes any time a story like this pops up in the news, your immediate concern is, okay, that sounds too cut and dry. there's an angle here.
Well, again, just like the Michael Brown thing, when they first started talking about him, they identified
Hands
him
up,
as
don't
just
shoot.
a high school kid.
Yep, high school
And they showed his
kid.
high school picture, his nice whatever. Nothing
Yeah.
about his
Oh, that's the other thing.
They're like, look at this poor innocent kid.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's the other thing they're doing in this story. They show a picture of Ahmaud Arbery in a suit, like a tuxedo, I think, and they show pictures of a former law enforcement officer, kind of like, you know, like I don't know if it's just a regular photo of just him in a t-shirt or whatever. He's kind of scraggly. I'm like, okay, you didn't get the picture where he's in uniform and he's clean cut and he's posing for the picture, because you got the picture where Aubrey's posing for it. No, yeah. But so they give the posed picture for the victim, and then like just, you know, just some random photo of the other guy, and I'm like, dude, you couldn't give this guy. They always do that. So they show the picture of Michael Brown, and it's his graduation picture, and I'm like, so they didn't show him when he's, you know, walking around stealing people's stuff.
Okay. It's really similar to like those hair club commercials. You remember those hair clubs for men? And it shows the guy partially balding, he's sitting there with the frown, or weight loss, and they're sitting there and their life's miserable and they got a frown on their face, and all of a sudden, next picture, they're smiling really big. You're like, why can't they smile in both and we get an accurate comparison to just the hair or just the weight loss or whatever? But
yeah,
it's like they're super miserable in that picture. They're frowning, pouty face, and then the other comparison picture is completely different. Like, that's not quite.
Yeah, so
something fishy here.
Little too much off tangent, but yeah, that to me seems like it's a clear-cut case. Those guys were in the right. They knew the law. That should have been a valid citizen's arrest. He said, I'm not going to jail, and he chose to risk his life, and he chose poorly. So that's what it looks like to me. I would be willing to bet money that those guys get acquitted. I'm not quite willing to bet money that there will be riots over it, but I would bet money that those guys are found innocent by jury.
Yeah.
Well, and they'll be found guilty in the court of public opinion.
One other thing I did read about it is that there were 2 judges that what's that called? Recused?
They recused themselves because they had worked with the dad.
That would be a conflict of interest.
Yeah. They had worked with him when he was a cop, so
people are claiming that this is showing the justice system is biased on the side of the former police officer, and they're taking his side, and that's why they're just dropping it.
Yeah.
And all the judges dropping it, but it's a conflict of interest. They can't take the case.
Yeah, well, it's not necessarily a conflict of interest because there's it's the potential and to avoid that. Yeah.
It's making news better just to step away so it doesn't cause controversy.
Yeah.
It makes sense that way.
All right. So, sorry for derailing that. That was a little more than I intended, but getting back to the Joe Biden here. Man, it's already 8:30. All right.
You confident there is nothing?
I'm confident there's nothing. No one ever brought it to the attention of me 27 years ago. This is any assertion at all. No one that I'm aware of in my campaign at, my Senate office at the time is aware of any such request and or any such complaint. And so I'm not worried about it at all. If there is a complaint, that's where it would be. That's where it would be filed. And if it's there, put it out. But I've never seen it. No one has it.
Any of your former staff members were able to corroborate the details of this allegation. But since Tara Reid herself during the Kavanaugh, for a woman to come forward in the glaring lights of focus nationally, you've got to start off with the presumption that at least the essence of what she is talking about is real. Whether or not...
Hang on a second. So I'm at like 4 minutes, 10 seconds, because I skipped a little ahead here.
She forgets the facts, whether or not it's been made worse or better over time. She's going to be going on national television on Sunday. Tara Reid is coming forward in the glaring lights. To use your words, should we not start off with the presumption that the essence of what she's talking about is real? She says you sexually assaulted her.
Look, from the very beginning, I've said believing women means taking the woman's claims seriously when she steps forward and then vet it. Look into it. That's true in this case as well. Women have a right to be heard, and the press should rigorously investigate claims they make. I'll always uphold that principle. But in the end, in every case, the truth is what matters. And in this case, the truth is the claims are false.
Yeah, okay, so I stopped at about 5 minutes. Wow, okay, so she just read Joe Biden his own words. And he comes back and saying, the believe all women means, yeah, you believe it, you take it as credible, and then you vet it. And I'm like, what? Okay,
Well, actually, that sentence I kind of agree with.
Well, no, I agree with that. But why is that what believe means? That if that's the case, you don't use the word believe, because when you say you believe, if you accept it as true, not as a they believe this is. Well, the other thing is, what other crime do you have to tell people to believe victims? Are cops out there being like, another one of these rape cases by a woman? Nobody's gonna take this seriously and vet it and investigate it. We got another one of these victims. I had my stuff stolen? What? This guy's coming out here saying he lost his TV. Wait, there's a woman? Believe women. Wait. I think there's something we're supposed to do. Let's see. Okay, so this woman had her purse stolen. Oh, we're supposed to go find the guy. Oh, thank you for telling us to believe women. If we hadn't heard this, we wouldn't do our jobs ever when it came to women. What kind of...
I would have just told him to go home mid-sentence. Close your mouth, go home.
Thank you. We've been doing this policing all wrong. We never believe women when they say they're beaten by their husbands. We never believe them when they do that. Women just making up stories about how they're a victim and coming to the cops and coming to... It's like, what? In what world do you have to tell people, oh yeah, we gotta believe this group and then vet this? Like, that's always the case. If somebody says they're a victim, it's investigated. If somebody says this was...
take the claim serious and go check it out.
That is always the case. Well, I guess maybe it's the exception of if somebody says they were abducted by aliens. Okay, that's maybe that's not an area that needs to be investigated as thoroughly or possibly at all. But I mean, there's people who do investigate that, but it's not a thing that cops look into. But if somebody says if somebody says a senator raped me, and they're like, oh, this is something that we probably should investigate. That's the norm. That's the default.
But I'm thinking what could have happened is during that whole hashtag #MeToo movement, that phrase became prevalent, and then with the Kavanaugh case, it got shoved to kind of the forefront of media and news, because before the hearing ever happened, before anybody heard her statements, or what was actually being claimed, or the recount of the events, they were already saying believe her.
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of shifted public opinion on any time a woman makes a claim. It has to be enforced, or the statement's put out, hey, you must believe.
Yeah.
But no, that nobody was saying that before Me Too. It was just, oh, there's a claim, let's check it out.
Like, I guess it's possible in the United States back in the 50s and 60s that wasn't the case, where a woman would come forward with a claim and then maybe it would be dismissed. But like 90s or 80s and 90s until now, that's not the norm. That is. Well, here's the other thing. I think Stefan Monalou mentioned this. Is like the hashtag believe all women was used for lynch mob. Like that is the setup for To Kill a Mockingbird is hashtag believe all women.
Yep.
She accused him of raping her. It was proven in court he couldn't possibly have done what she claims, and he still was sentenced to death. That is the point of that novel. That is the original Me Too false allegation.
Yep. Oh, there was also that kid what was that lady's name? I think it was back around the 50s or 60s. She said this young black kid came in and molested her or raped her or something, and so they went out and killed him, and it turns out she made it up.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch of instances of that, but the women's allegations have been the source of a lot of incorrect vigilante justice, or I guess mob justice should be a better term for that. It's not necessarily vigilante; that's mob justice, which mob anything is never actually justice or never actually a good thing. Mob anything tends to be bad. I think, yeah, I'm trying to, it's like, is there any instance of mob mentality? Nope, that's bad. Mobsters, yeah, that's bad. Mob anything makes it bad. So it's not justice. It's not a good mental state. Yeah.
Correct. Just let the police do the job and find out after what's found out.
But with the whole Me Too and hashtag Believe Women sort of thing, that started substituting what was the standard was evidence for proof of a claim. Instead of that, it's like, well, there's a claim with no evidence, accept that as if it was evidence. That's what the hashtag Me Too and the hashtag Believe All Women became. And that's the problem. And yet, Joe Biden is kind of repeating that as hey, believe the claim as if it's evidence. Oh, but we got to vet the claim. We're like, no, that is the default standard. That's not believe all women. That is, hey, this person is claiming to be a victim. Investigate, verify whether this is something that either could possibly be true or is true. That's this is a claim that they're a victim. That's the normal.
His responses in this interview, because he's not necessarily saying anything bad, or at least when he's trying to answer that question, where she was repeating his words to him, it doesn't sound like he's
so the
denying or not agreeing, but I think he's too used to political speak, like roundabout.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is that
saying, yeah, it's true. Investigate it. You'll find nothing, but correct.
Yeah,
it's
I'm
a claim.
Gonna try to fast forward to the next thing, but I've already spent kind of too long on this. But we'll because there's one more.
Is it possible these claims are held in an NDA? Do you have any NDAs that have been
NDAs
or resealed? Be in the National Archive, Delaware. I know there's 18, and she alleges
Delaware.
that the complaints may be hidden there. Why not strive for complete transparency? Up when they were supposed to be revealed.
He said it's going to take them time. That one place personnel papers are so I'm asking, make it.
Business Insider, and she claims that possibly a complaint or some sort of record of transparency on them.
First, for you and your public president of the company's record, if it exists,
past that if a woman goes under the lights and talks about something like she is saying is
motive, I'm not going to years all in and question, but I have what she says plays so far. Members, know like this.
But Mr. Vice President, as it pertained to Dr. Ford,
she kind of goes back and forth.
There's anything that
one particular question, I forget where it is.
Strengthen in this system, but are.
To try and ask many different ways. Stacey Abrams, we give retire or gift.
Doubt if them circumstance of her. So you period.
You regret what you said.
What be?
Absolutely certain. Are you absolutely?
Has been made by ago this year. Complaint.
Go ahead. Do you agree with the reporting that those records were supposed to be revealed to the public and then they were resealed for a longer period of time until after you leave, quote, public?
I've made all of the
I'm looking for one particular section. Sorry,
there was nothing about Tara Reid in those records, and if so,
I am absolutely certain.
Why not approve a search of her name in those records?
So this is 14 minutes, 37 seconds.
Yes, and reveal anything that might be related to Tara Reid in the University of Delaware records.
There is nothing. They wouldn't. They're not there. And if it's. I don't understand the point you're trying to make.
The point I'm trying to make is that
there are no personnel records by definition.
The point I'm trying to make is that you are approving and actually calling for a search of the National Archives records of anything pertaining to Tara Reid. I'm asking why not do the same in the University of Delaware records, which have raised questions because they were supposed to be revealed to the public and then they were sealed for a longer period of time. Why not do it for both sets of records?
Because the material in the University of Delaware has no personnel files, but it does have a lot of confidential conversations that I had with the president about a particular issue, that I had with the heads of state of other places, that would not be something that would be revealed while I was in public office or while I was seeking public office. It stands to reason, to the best of my knowledge, no one else has done that either.
I'm just talking about her name, not anybody else in those records. A search for that. Nothing classified with the president or anybody else. I'm just asking, why not do a search for Tara Reade's name in the University of Delaware records?
Look, I mean, who does that search?
Oh, yeah, who does that search? Okay, so that whole, I know it was like a 2-minute section there. Man, that was very good on her part. I can't believe that she pushed him this hard. Usually MSNBC, they're Democrat. I expected light softballs and stuff like that, but that is the exact appropriate line of questioning. She's like,
yeah,
you could have somebody search these records just for her name, but there's something he said while that was going on that, I mean, it just seems kind of it has some relevance given the new information that just came out. Either this came out today or the day before, but Joe Biden was involved in the Flynn situation. He's one of several people that that asked that Flynn be unmasked as the one who was communicating with the Russian ambassador. So they had a recorded phone call of somebody talking with the Russian ambassador, and his name is on a list of like over a dozen people asking that Flynn's name be revealed to the people like that are in Obama's administration. So he's talking about, there's records in there of talking with the president and when I'm in the vice president and with heads of foreign leaders and stuff. I was like, dude, it sounded like as I'm listening to it now, I was like, he knew this was out there, that he was one of the people responsible for the investigation into Flynn, which led to the rest of the investigation. I mean, that was kind of the tipping point for the Russia investigation, because had they not been able to do anything with Flynn, they wouldn't have been able to proceed for like another 2 years. Like that would have been the end of it. That would have been a dead case. And yet they went on Flynn and they got him to confess to lying to the FBI or whatever, and then they were able to keep that rolling for another 2 years. But had that not occurred, it would have been dead within a couple of weeks. And yet there's indications now that Obama, and that's the hashtag Obamagate and all that sort of stuff that's going around right now, it's Obama and Biden seem to have had it. It's because at first, like, the theory was, it's some radicals within the Department of Justice that took it upon themselves to be the heroes and take down the evil Donald Trump. And it's like, the more and more it's looking like Joe Biden and Obama had a hand in this.
Yeah, they were aware of the investigations and knew there was no validity behind it, but said, go ahead.
Yeah. So when he was making that answer, it's like, but there's records of, what I had conversations with the president and with heads of foreign leaders. I'm like, is there stuff regarding the Russiagate investigations and the Flynn that linking back to Obama and Biden that he doesn't want anybody looking at in case they're like, that's going to be more devastating than a potential sexual assault allegation. That's going to, if he's got records or something along those lines, that puts Obama and that entire administration in hot water more than the sexual assault allegation is just going to maybe bring down Joe Biden, but it's not going to bring down Obama and a whole host of other Democrats. So, as he was saying, I was like, man, But his is like, oh, but who's gonna do that search? I'm like, you get an independent person, give them that has the appropriate security clearance, somebody who is vetted, somebody that both sides agree. It's like, yeah, this person's gonna be fair and accurate. Just have them go through and look for Tara Reid's name in these papers, and if they like, hey, these are all the documents that have her name, bunch of nothing, mostly, no, we don't have this report, or hey, we found this report and here's what it contains.
Hey, you're not going to release confidential information. Won't make anything public. The only thing we're looking for is any documents related to Tara Reid.
Yeah,
something like that.
Something along those lines, but an independent party, not a member of his cabinet or not a member of the university or not just a trustworthy person that's going to be fair and bring the truth. But that to me is like, oh, who's going to do that search? It's like, these types of individuals exist. That's the entire purpose of the Inspector General, which is how we got the information regarding the Flynn investigation. The recent information about Flynn came through the Inspector General's office. That's supposed to be an independent third party, like non-political organization that's investigating. Yeah. So.
Who was saying that? I thought there was somebody asking for the DNC to organize a non-biased committee to search through the records. How would that not be biased? You are the Democratic Party.
Yeah, that was a pretty absurd thing. It's okay. So this is more
like
of
Trump and Russiagate. Let's have Trump investigate himself. Let's do that.
Oh, that's not. Nope, we didn't find anything here. It would be right, that scene from Life of Brian where all the Roman soldiers pile into the house. That's what a non-biased DNC investigation is going to be. Guys' legs sticking out of barrels. Guys hiding behind curtains. Up. No, we found nothing. All right.
Yeah, pretty much.
So moving on to the next clip. So this is again, it's amazing how, like, I didn't think about this when I was preparing this, but how that last section goes so well with this right here. So this is from 2 days ago when Biden is talking with George Stephanopoulos. Or no, this is either yesterday or the day before. I can't quite remember. So.
I do want to ask you about Michael Flynn, the former National Security Advisor to President Trump, and the move by the Justice Department last week to dismiss the case against him for lying to the FBI. The president said yesterday that move is justified because President Obama targeted Flynn. He called it, quote, the biggest political crime in U.S. history. Your former Senate colleague Charles Grassley has added that Flynn was entrapped and asked on the Senate floor, what did Obama and Biden know? When did they know it? So what did you know about those moves to investigate Michael Flynn, and was there anything improper done?
I know nothing about those moves to investigate Michael Flynn, number one. Number two, this is all about diversion. This is a game.
Wow, okay, I just had to pause this. Man, he does not even... I know nothing about the investigation into Michael Flynn. He specifically said that because... Yeah, so I'm at 2 minutes and 33 seconds here. Man, it's like these people don't think that we've got... I'm going to play the next part and then rewind back to this.
This guy plays all the time. The country is in crisis. We're in an economic crisis, a health crisis. We're in real trouble. He should stop trying to always divert attention from the real concerns of the American people. The American people are worried with good reason. He has acted irresponsibly from the very beginning. He continues to act irresponsibly. He hasn't done his job. This is all about diverting attention from the horrible way in which he has acted with what he did. We don't have coronavirus because of him, but we have the devastating impact of it because of his lack of a policy, his lack of action. It's all about diversion.
I do want to press that. You say you didn't know anything about it, but you were reported to be at a January 5th, 2017 meeting where you and the president were briefed on the FBI's plan to question Michael Flynn over those conversations he had with the Russian ambassador Kislyak.
Now, I thought you asked me whether or not I had anything to do with him being prosecuted.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought you asked if I had done anything to do with him being prosecuted. Go back to 215.
And asked on the Senate floor, what did Obama and Biden know? When did they know it? So what did you know about those moves to investigate Michael Flynn, and was there anything improper done?
I know nothing about those moves to investigate Michael Flynn, number one. Number two.
What? Man. The internet has been... how did Democrats... how did politicians or do anything, or how do they do anything after the internet? Because I was like, dude...
Yeah. Well, he's completely diverting the topic to something else.
Yeah, he was accusing
like,
Trump of diverting when he's diverting. He said, "Oh, I thought you were talking about the prosecution." I was like, "No, you specifically responded about the investigation because that's the question he asked. You repeat the question asked to you in your answer." Oh, dude, yeah.
I mean, then he goes on to spout some other stuff like, you know, why is this being investigated now when we've got so many other things going on?
Man.
It's because it was already being investigated. It has nothing to do with coronavirus. Coronavirus just popped up.
Yeah, no, it's just what has been recently revealed in that investigation.
People are going to question and want to know what happened because this is what triggered Russiagate.
Yeah, and wasted 2 years. All right, so that is Doofus. So let's go to a little bit of Gallant. I have this paused here at 39 seconds in the first clip, but I may skip around a bit in this.
About the closures.
This is which video?
There are many Americans also
The
who are
third
angry
one.
about the reopenings. They're fearful, as many of these states are on the rise in their numbers. There's 66,000 deaths, more than that now. Yeah. As president, what do you say to the people who are scared to go back to work on one side? And what do you say to the people who are really angry about these lingering closures?
Well, I think you can satisfy both. If you're scared, you're going to stay back a little bit and you're going to watch it. And I think anyone over 60, because we have a pretty good roadmap right now. Anybody over 60, you could say 65, but let's make it 60. We have to protect those people and we have to watch it, and maybe they stay back longer. But no, I think you can really have it both ways. I think a lot of people want to go back. They just want to go back. You see it every day. You see demonstrations all over the country, and those are meaningful demonstrations. Oh, it's big stuff. But you also have some people that are very scared. Probably everybody's scared when you get right down to it. It's a terrible thing that happened to our country. It came from China. It should have been stopped. It could have been stopped on the spot. They chose not to do it, or something happened. Either there was incompetence or they didn't do it for some reason. And we're going to have to find out what that reason was. But people are absolutely scared. But there are other people that are scared about being locked in a room and losing their job and not having any income. And, you know, for the first time, these are workers. These are people that want to get back and work and make a living. And they're afraid their job's not going to be there. And at a certain point, if you keep it going too long, that's going to happen. So I understand that very well.
On that note.
All right, so pause it after his answer at about 2:15. Man, it was a good question. Again, so while the Biden interviews may have been a little more hostile, so they do kind of, all right, so these are mostly friendly questions from the people at Fox concerning Trump, but they do actually go a little hard on him in some, because like, yeah, these are concerns and they're legitimate concerns about people, and I think this is kind of one of those questions that maybe Democrats would look at this like a softball question, but that is exactly their claims about Trump. Like right now, it's like, oh, how can you be thinking about the economy when people are dying? He gives the exact appropriate response. It's like, it's not, hey, everybody go back to how it was before all this. It's the, hey, if you're vulnerable, you stay isolated, stay out of this. But everybody else, hey, they've got just as much a concern about they need to be out there working again. You can't just focus on what about those people who are at risk and what we need to sacrifice everybody for those people. It doesn't work like that. There is the appropriate response right now would be a balance between the two, and I think he gave a very very good answer here. So let
Yeah, I mean, what was his answer? I think we can have both.
Yeah, we can have both. The people who want
Yeah,
to, aren't at
protesting.
risk and want to get back to work, let them go back. Let's see. I'll jump ahead here to about 9:40.
Again, he says there is federal assistance coming to get specific parts.
Well, not only coming, we've given him a lot of assistance, which is good.
So your son-in-law advisor, Jared Kushner, declared that it's a great success story, the federal response.
It is.
And that when you look at the other side, that you're on the other side medically. Art, do you think that as deaths are going up and cases are going up, that we really are on the other side medically, and that this is a great success story from the federal government?
Well, it's too soon to say that really, I guess, because, we're still in the middle of something, but certainly we would have lost a lot more people, Brett, if we would have done, as an example, you call it herd, if we would have done herd. In other words, everything's wonderful, let's just keep going along.
Herd immunity.
We would have lost 2.5 million people, I think, or 1.5 million or 2 million people. No, I think I think the American people have done a good job. This is a tragic situation. Everybody knows somebody that's been affected. That's a very rare thing. But everybody knows. Some states have done a better job than others. I mean, that's the way it is. But in some states, you can do a lot less than in other states. In New York, I think you're going to have to go around with masks for a while. You're going to have to do separation.
Right. So I'm going to pause the answer right around 11 minutes there. So yeah, he's given the appropriate response. It's like, what people are calling for is a one-size-fits-all solution, and he's saying no. Certain states are going to have different rules, and because New York, what works for New York is not going to work everywhere else, and some states have been doing it right. But so I'm going to disagree with him here. I don't. Man, that came out of nowhere. I guess I've been talking a little long. My throat's getting a little raspy. I may have to get myself a bottle of water here in a bit, but excuse me. Yeah, but he starts off talking. It may have been 2.5 million, or 2.5 million, or maybe 1.5 million, or 2 million, or something. I think even with the worst case scenario, it would have been probably closer to a couple 100,000, probably 300,000 to 400,000, which would be bad. So I think the quarantine did get that number under 100,000 in the U.S. We aren't at 100,000 yet. So I think by the time this is all done, I think from now until winter again, we're likely to get under that 100,000, or we're likely to stay under 100,000 regardless of what we do from here on out. That is my viewpoint. So I do think it could have been potentially up to 500,000 had we done nothing whatsoever. Just based on the actual, based on the more conservative death rate based on, the more extreme cases. You're talking about because the numbers that I was seeing was a 0.05% or 0.05 to 0.1% death rate, and you're like, okay, so that's closer to to 500,000 deaths, but that is under the assumption that the current death rate is an accurate estimate, and the number of people who have had it is 50 times higher than we've tested. So if you put those two together, you get about 0.5 or 0.05. So that's where you would get around. Actually, maybe my math is not correct there. Because it's 320 million, right?
Somewhere in there, or 330.
So if it's man, I could have just done that in my head. I don't know why I got a calculator. Yeah, because if it was at 0.1%, then we'd be seeing 320,000. So I think at the worst, had we done absolutely nothing whatsoever, we possibly could have seen 500,000. I don't think we would have seen the 2 million that 1.5 and 2.5 million that people were projecting and all that sort of thing. But
but
still,
those
half a
projections-
million. Yeah, half a million would have been terrible. I think the quarantine measures got us under that 100,000, and so they saved
But a
approximately.
lot of those early projections were based off of what was being reported from Italy,
Yeah.
where they're just including any deaths that happened
Yeah.
during the pandemic as COVID related. Same thing some of our states are doing for some reason. And, asking doctors, hey, if they were died from anything but tested positive for COVID, listed as a COVID death, what? Those numbers were that we were initially basing off of, and that plateau, we were looking at Italy and saying, yep, that must be the worst of it. That's where the projections came from.
Mhm.
And it turns out the numbers were way off.
Yeah. So I think the actions that were taken as far as quarantine and all of that and all these safety measures, so some of them are going to continue. The masks is likely to continue. I know for my work, I'm working from home at the moment, but they've already issued an order. Like, once you are able to come back into the office, masks are required. You will not be allowed in the facilities if you're not wearing a mask. That's probably going to be the case for a couple more months. That's going to be the new normal.
I can't do that.
There's likely going to be
a mask on for 8 hours.
Yeah, wearing a mask is probably going to be mandatory for a couple of months. Also, the 6 feet apart in grocery stores and in lines and all that social or physical distancing when out in public is probably going to be the normal for a while until the hysteria dies down. And likely that's going to be the case until they come out with a vaccine, and then we're going to kind of go back to more normal. If you're not like wearing masks and all that stuff is pretty normal in Japan and China, right? You see people walking around with it. That's because they've had SARS cases there and stuff like that. That may be the case in the United States, where that just becomes the normal. Where, hey, there's like half the people are walking around with masks. That's just how it is. I think that's. I don't plan on. I haven't been wearing a mask, and I will not wear a mask unless forced by by going back to work, and if they require a mask while I'm in the office, and then I
see
probably
no
have
point.
to do that. But
the mask does not prevent you from getting sick. It's just the only thing it does is keep your breath close to you, so you're not breathing on people in close proximity in case you have it.
Yeah. But
everyone walks around as if I need this to protect me, or I might get it. That's the impression. That's the way people act.
Yeah.
If they see you without a mask,
like, oh,
then you can see people without their mask putting it on, like, oh, I'm gonna cover up, or I'm gonna get sick. And that's not how that works at all.
Yeah. So
if nobody's walking around coughing, you don't have a flu or a cold or something, then wearing the mask isn't really going to do that much. It's more of like heavy breathing or coughing in people. Same thing that spreads the regular flu.
Yep.
Just stay home if you're coughing and stuff. Or if you have to go out, then wear your mask and make sure you're not doing that on people or near people. But that was already a normal protocol, just without the masks.
Yeah.
Well, that's why flu season pops up as bad as it does every year. So maybe this will change that.
Yeah, maybe that'll lower the flu and season death rates and stuff like that. So
but yeah, just having to wear a mask constantly while you're out in public, it's not doing anything. Yeah. Last time I went to the grocery store, I had my mask in my pocket. I didn't put it on until I was approaching the door. I saw people give me weird looks in the parking lot. I'm like, I'm not anywhere near you. What good would me putting my mask on right now? I know people driving in their car by themselves, still wearing a mask. I'm like, hey, who you trying not to get yourself sick? What good is that? And there was an older lady, and her mask started falling off, and she's trying to put groceries in her car and kept dropping the groceries and putting the mask on. I'm like, nobody's around you. Put the mask in your pocket and deal with your groceries. What? So I'm just being kind of ludicrous example of people not understanding what the mask is actually supposed to do.
Yeah, but I think most people don't understand. Again, that's why the stupid people buying toilet paper and hand sanitizer and all, overstocking on everything. Oh, it's the end of the world. Yeah, those are the same people who are like, oh, you're not wearing a mask? What are you trying to do, get everybody sick? And I'm like, the only way you can get somebody else sick is if you have it. If you don't have it, you're not getting other people sick. That's how things work. You can't just this person who didn't have COVID or whatever the actual virus is, didn't have it and breathed on me, and I caught it. That's not how things work.
That actually called the hotline to report parties. All right, police, I'd like to report there are 5 people in my neighbor's backyard. I believe they're having a small get-together, and something needs to be done, or coronavirus is going to keep spreading here.
Yeah, it just shows up where there's groups of more than one or two people. Corona just magically shows up, and like that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. But
it's never how it worked.
Yeah. So I think some of these like the social distancing and the masks are likely to continue for the rest of the year, and maybe longer. But I think it's likely to continue until a vaccine is introduced. And once there's a vaccine, once people can go to CVS and get a little, either nasal spray or shot or whatever, then the hysteria is likely to die down. But I think his other than his overestimation of how many people would have died, I do think the response did save possibly a couple 100,000 people's lives. That to me sounds like a good. To me, that still did good. The fact that everything is still closed down, the fact that they extended it out to the end of the month, that's where I'm like, Drumpf, you were doing so good. All you had to do was not give in to the pressure right here and be like, okay, our numbers are dropping as far as the number of new cases and the number of new deaths, and our medical system is keeping up with it. All right, time for less restrictive because that's the other thing that's so bizarre to me is when they first gave these policies, they said these are guidelines. Guidelines are not rules. They're not enforced with an iron hand. These are things that you should do. Like a guideline would be, don't have sex with somebody you're not married to. That's a guideline. That's not like, it's like, oh, this person had, this person was, committed adultery or was in, adultery, fornication. These people are fornicators. Lock them up and throw away the key. No, those are guidelines. Those are not enforced. You don't have cops going around and be like, can you believe these teenagers just had sex? Beat them and take away their stuff. And like, but that's what people are doing for not following the federal guidelines as far as quarantine and stay in shelter in place stuff. It's like, what? No, they were supposed to be guidelines. It's like, hey, this is what we're going to do to reduce the spread. But if it doesn't apply to you, okay. If you live out on a farm by yourself, obviously this doesn't apply to you. You don't have to stay. If your neighbors are usually a mile away from you, you don't have to self-quarantine and not go to the store. So there's the irrational is like, oh, these need to be enforced as if they were law sort of thing is bizarre.
Yeah,
but
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that made no sense because I understand there being food necessities. That's why grocery stores remained open, or like Walmart, because people still need basic necessities, toothpaste and toiletries, food to survive. But there's all these fast food places open. You can't go inside. You can't sit down. But everyone's touching the drive-thru or passing money.
Yeah.
Everyone's eating the food prepared by people in there. Who knows if they're sick or not? I don't. People are still and they're out in public.
Yeah, that's the more bizarre thing.
Here, they use plastic barricades between the clerk.
Yeah, that's an excellent point about the food because you're talking about
when they finish scanning your items that you put on the conveyor belt, and now they're touching it, and then they hand you the receipt through the little gap in the glass. I'm like, I don't see the point of the glass.
Defeated the entire purpose of all that. But the food items is like that's something you're actively eating. It's like it's one thing to inhale something somebody has, like somebody sneezed and then you walk like it's in the air particle and then you're walking by and you breathe in and it goes into your lungs and all that sort of stuff. But if you're eating something, that's like if somebody was coughing on their hands or whatever and they're touching food, like you have no way of knowing, and then it gets sent off and Uber Eats and shows up at your door. Whatever they coughed into your food is you're more likely to get sick from that than happen to walk by after somebody sneezed, because when something is in the air, it spreads out much further, whereas if it's concentrated on food and stuff they were touching, it's going to stay in that general area.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more likely to pick up some kind of contagion from something you're ingesting than it is from walking around. It just happened to be in the air, because in the air everything gets dispersed. Wind blows it around. It's and it actually has less of a lifespan in the air. That's why they're saying it's less likely for you to get it's airborne. They were saying it was less likely for it to be airborne and all that sort of stuff. Not. But they have done studies recently where it's like, sunlight and exposure to air does kill it faster than if it was on a surface. So, yeah. All right, so I'm gonna skip the next clip, and we'll just jump straight into, because this goes into what you're. So this was the Moye incident, or actually, what's her name? Something Luther. Shelley Luther, I think, is her name. Do I have that? Alright. Wait. Let's see. No, it doesn't say her name on that clip either. Alright, so I'm going to... This is, DM... Or DW... Or capital DWMB, that clip. I don't know if you've got that pulled up, but it's the one that starts at 5 minutes and 45 seconds. So... And this is like, yeah, these are, again, policies like this that don't make any sense. And this is the most egregious one that I know of.
You now see the error of your ways and understand that the society cannot function where one's own belief in a concept of liberty permits you to flaunt your disdain for the rulings of duly elected officials, that you owe an apology to the elected officials whom you disrespected or flagrantly ignoring, and in one case defiling their orders, which you now know obviously apply to you.
Man,
that you understand that the proper way in which in an ordered society to engage concerns which you may have had is to hire a lawyer and advocate for change, an exception or an amendment to laws that you find offensive, that you publicly state that this is the way that citizens in the state should behave, that you represent to this court that you will today cease operation of your salon and not reopen until after further orders of the government permit you to do so. This court will consider the payment of a fine in lieu of the incarceration which you've demonstrated that you have so clearly earned. Is there anything that you would like to say?
Now, I genuinely hate drawing hyperbolic historical examples, but just listen to the words of the judge and imagine under what other historical circumstances those words could have been said.
Yeah, meant to stop it a little sooner than that, but yeah, it's a very valid point. Like Viva's point there. So I stopped it after. I stopped it at 7:05. Yeah, that judge, man. I don't know if he is elected or appointed, but either way, he should not be a judge anymore after this. That was just, ugh.
Well, he's an idiot.
Yeah.
On the one hand, it's her salon.
Mm-hmm.
If other people want to be patrons and choose to go in, knowing current lockdown situations because they need a haircut or whatever, that's up to them. If people are wanting to, participate in that business, understanding social distancing and whatnot, but you can't stay 6 feet away permanently from everybody.
Yeah.
That's possible.
Yeah, and so the other thing is,
you gotta hand your card to the person or hand the cash over. You're now inches or possibly, millimeters from somebody else. You go to the grocery store at the checkout. You can't be 6 feet away still trying to pay for your groceries.
Yeah, so I don't know if you know more of the details on this. So the details on this is they were that Friday, businesses like hers were going to be opened up for that. That was like, okay, now everything is opened up, no problems. Rather than wait till Friday, she did it a week early. And that's why she got dragged into court for opening up her business a week. It's like, hey, it's planned to open this Friday. I'm like, what is going to change between now and Friday? As far like 1 week has passed, it's now safer for you to operate your business because a week has passed. What? What is the...
Yeah, you've already been locked down for 2 months.
Yeah, but one extra week is going to make all that difference. What?
Yeah.
That is bizarre. So then, yeah. So thankfully, the governor and some of the other political leaders, they said, yeah, we want this to be how things are run, but nobody should go to jail. Well, here's the other crazy thing that a lot of people were pointing out. It's the same district where they released prisoners from jail because of the potential that they would spread COVID, and they would be at risk of catching it there. They're releasing prisoners who belong in jail, like people with violent records, and they release them, and here they are trying to put a woman in jail for simply opening her business a week earlier than what that county's political official says. And it's like, man, that is insane.
Well, I think this kind of proves out the point of, or makes a good example of how you can see a totalitarian state run. You look back and you're wondering, how could all those Nazis be so stupid and kill those millions of Jews? And then you look at clips like this and say, because a lot of people just don't think. They're just, here's the orders. It must be done this way. Just following orders. They lose all common sense. They don't think in practical matters, or just said, nope, this is what was stated, and so this must be, you have to wait 5 more minutes or it's illegal. Stupid stuff like that.
Yeah.
They're not thinking.
Well,
why would you release prisoners into the public? If they get COVID in there, they're already locked up. They were the first people to stay locked up before everybody locked themselves in their own house. Just
yeah, should have left them there.
Get sick, take them to the hospital, but it's not like they can spread it anywhere outside of prison.
Oh, there's something else that's going around. There's a pretty funny viral clip of a bunch of prisoners drinking from the same bottle, and I think doing other stuff to try to get everybody sick with COVID, hoping that they could get released from prison. Nope, they just now they're just all sick and in prison still.
Yeah. One dude's coughing, everyone's huddling around. Come on, man, pass it around.
So they all, none of them got released, thankfully, and they're all now in jail and sick.
We're gonna make a break for it. Let's get sick. Yeah, that's how ridiculous people are thinking. At no point do you just release criminals into the population because they could get sick in jail.
It's like, that's probably the safest place they could be, because, hey, guess what you do? You quarantine. Oh, what are they doing right now? They're in perpetual quarantine.
Yeah. Everyone else has to be on lockdown. The guys who were on lockdown, we're just going to release them. None of it makes sense.
All right, so
it's not like laws. These are just, yeah.
So I skipped ahead a little bit here to that to 8:35 for her response, which was So one of the main things that was so irritating about what the judge says is, like, you need to apologize to the politicians. Yeah, and here's her very appropriate response.
But when it comes to Shelley Luther, she is not taking Winston's way out.
Disagree with you, sir, when you say that I'm selfish, because feeding my kids is not selfish. I have hairstylists that are going hungry because they'd rather feed their kids. So, sir, if you think the law is more important than kids getting fed, then please go ahead with your decision, but I'm not going to shut the salon.
Luther's attorney Warren Norrid vowed to appeal the decision. He said the salon would likely continue to open its doors, increasing the $3,500 fine against it by $500 each day it does before the governor's new order takes effect Friday. And in cases...
Yeah, it's so bizarre. But yeah, her response was correct, and she did end up spending, I think, a couple of nights in jail. But, I think it was either... I know she spent at least one night in jail, and I think maybe she got out the next morning or the next afternoon. But yeah, that is the exact appropriate response to that idiocy. And
yeah.
So
that's what all the protests were.
All right.
People just want to get back to work. Mouths to feed.
All right. It is 9:20. So the next clip is from Tucker Carlson. But that is the day after. And man, this would have been a lot more impactful had I actually been able to do all of this last Tuesday, because I think this clip was from last Tuesday. Right, May 6th. Oh, it was Wednesday. I was planning, yeah, because Tuesday got thrown out. I was like, okay, well, hopefully we'll get to do Wednesday, and then I had something come up. So, but
we're happy to have him on tonight, Mr. Norton. Thanks so much for coming on. So your client is in jail right now?
That's correct. He remanded her to the sheriff's department while we were in the court yesterday.
So she was such a threat to the city of Dallas that there couldn't be a period between conviction and sentencing. She just had to go right to jail.
Oh, that's correct, because she committed the actual crime of heresy against the city of Dallas and its oligarchy that decided that real criminals could go to jail, but people who were heretics, or people who were real criminals could be let out, but the heretics could go to jail. And he demanded that she admit she was being selfish and being offensive and apologize to everybody. He actually said, I want you to apologize for being selfish. And so, of course, she wasn't being selfish. She's just trying to earn $1, like all of these people that are hurting. So all these salons, all these people, they only get paid when they do haircuts. They're contractors. There's no government funds for those guys. Even Shelley, who's a salon owner, could have access to some funds, which she received recently. But her business family have no funds, and she only received that recently.
I'm going to pause it right there. So, yeah. So, the other thing is, definitely does not hurt her appeal, like, because everything prior to this is she was not wearing or she was wearing a mask and all the presentations of it, and I was like, yeah, that's the exact appropriate response, and then she takes off the mask, I'm like, dude, she's pretty good looking. So I think there's a reason why she's kind of been, it's like, yes. Not only is she right, but she's also good looking. Let's put her on all of these TVs. She is now the spokesperson for how insane this quarantine is.
So it's
all right, and so that kind of wait, got a third clip about this. Oh, because this was the update that she was released, so I'm not gonna bother playing that clip. But moving on to the so this should be after the heading of the either, I don't know if it shows up on yours as press secretary or the Leigh as SmackDown. So we'll move on to that. Speaking of women that are good looking and you kind of understand why they are spokespeople.
Censorship. Facebook released the names of some of our new overlords. I mean, members of the...
Hang on a second. So this should be a clip from Mark Dice, and I'm just going to play that.
The new oversight board, who will determine what people can and cannot say on Facebook and Instagram, and who can't use the platforms at all. Mark Zuckerberg funded the creation of the Independent Oversight Board to act as the Supreme Court of content moderation. This way, the censorship of conservatives will get even worse, but Facebook and others will pretend that it's being done by a fair third party.
Yeah, I thought it was at the beginning of the clip, but skip ahead.
I'm sure the oversight board will be balanced with members from both sides. Seen her on CNN over the years owning the libs, and now she's going to do it standing at the podium in the White House press briefing room. Here she is at Wednesday's press briefing, wrapping it up like a champ.
Leigh, in a previous life, before you were press secretary, you worked for the campaign, and you made a comment, I believe, on Fox, in which you said President Trump will not allow the coronavirus to come to this country. Given what has happened since then, obviously, would you like to take that back?
Well, first let me note, I was asked a question on Fox Business about President's travel restrictions. I noted what was the intent behind those travel restrictions, which is we will not see the coronavirus come here, we will not see terrorism come here, referring to an earlier set of travel restrictions. I guess I would turn the question back on the media and ask similar questions. Does Vox want to take back that they proclaim that the coronavirus would not be a deadly pandemic? Does the Washington Post want to take back that they told Americans to get a grip, the flu is bigger than the coronavirus? Does the Washington Post likewise want to take back that our brains are causing us to exaggerate the threat of the coronavirus? Does the New York Times want to take back that fear of the virus may be spreading faster than the virus itself? Does NPR want to take back that the flu was a much bigger threat than the coronavirus? And finally, once again, the Washington Post, would they like to take back that the government should not respond aggressively to the coronavirus? I'll leave you with those questions, and maybe you'll have some answers in a few days. Yep.
Haley,
Thank you very much.
Just you were prepared for that.
Yeah, I'm gonna pause it. Like you can hear the you can hear the wimp, and you were prepared for that. Yes, she was prepared for that. Why wouldn't she be? Like, how do you like? Aha! I was gonna get her with a gotcha. Oh, she was prepared for that. Did not expect. Like, then if she wasn't prepared for that, she wouldn't be good at the job. Yeah, that whole like. If this was 2 years ago, that's where it would pause and you'd hear Snoop Dogg saying something or some kind of rap beat, and you see the sunglasses and a blunt slide into her mouth. And the the foghorn. I don't know if you like the that used to be like the Ben
noise.
Shapiro like gangster. Yeah. I didn't choose the gangster life chose me. So I was like, man, that was a pretty good smackdown. There's another clip of her. I believe this is a later date. So the next clip.
Back on the media and ask similar questions. Does Vox want to take back that the right to take back?
So let's skip. So that's her repeating the same thing that was in the Dice clip. Skip to about 20 seconds in.
Does the White House really believe that you can decide to have officials testify in the Republican-controlled Senate but not testify in the Democratic-controlled House? Doesn't the House have legitimate oversight and a legitimate really responsibility, not just the authority, but responsibility to have somebody like Anthony Fauci testify?
Will Dr. Fauci be questioned by Democrats in that Senate hearing?
Yes, he will be. So why? But are you saying that so the Senate's fine, the House has no role in oversight?
The House needs to act in good faith. We don't have time in the middle of a pandemic for publicity stunts. It's not the time for that. It's not the place for that. In the course of 3 phone calls, you should be able to give the subject matter to ensure it's the best use of Dr. Fauci's time. As you yourself noted, in the Republican-controlled Senate, Dr. Fauci will indeed be asked questions by Democrats.
Yeah, that is an excellent point. And obviously, she's pointing out during the House investigation for impeachment, Republicans were not granted any time to call their own witnesses. They were a lot of times shut out of those discussions if they ever got to ask questions at all. The House did not give the opposition their turn, and she's saying, yeah, well, this is only happening for the Senate because both sides get a fair shake at this. In the Senate, we can control that. With the House, who knows? Excellent point there.
Yep.
And so, yeah, she's... yeah, I mean, granted, they've had other press secretaries, and the other guys, and the first guy, I don't even remember his name, but then it became Sarah Huckabee Sanders, and she was really good with the facts and really good, but she didn't have, like, those smackdown moments of, cutting through and just calling them on their BS, which this Kelly, what's her name? Kelly McEnany? I don't know how. McEnany. Yeah, sure.
Shaylee McEnany. Yeah, I'm not sure what her last name is.
Yeah, but she has more of those kind of like, oh snap moments. So just coming back with that fire. So I was like, man, that's really good. So I am hoping to see more of those clips of her just like, yes, finally, we need more of this. People pushing back and calling them on their BS as they're saying it. Yeah, and it doesn't hurt that, again, she's pretty good looking. Alright, so I think that was it, and it is 9:30, so it's about 2 hours, and I do have one last little bonus clip here at the end, but whoops. Yeah, that shouldn't have been... Okay. I clicked on the wrong window. Is there anything else that you wanted to add before we kind of roll into the outro?
Yeah, basically just I think people are taking the coronavirus way too hysterically absurd proportions. They're not getting the full grasp behind why social distancing is a good recommendation. It's not the law. It's not, hey, fine people and imprison people because they want to get back to work. It's the same thing as the normal flu. I'm not saying corona is the normal flu, just guidelines on how to prevent others from getting sick. It's the same thing we've already known for decades.
Mm-hmm.
Don't cough on people. Use hand sanitizer. Wash your hands. You know, if you think you're sick, stay a little bit away. It's all supposed to be common sense, and we're just seeing knuckleheads and stupid things coming out.
Yeah.
So I'm just wanting things to die down and start to get back to normal. I kind of miss normal life.
Oh, and yeah, okay, one more thing to say on that, but I think I'll play it after this clip. So, here we go.
We at Gillette recognize that these are difficult times, and we want you to know that we care. So you should buy our products. Other companies, they don't care about you. They want you to die. But we don't want you to die. Let's move to the couch. We used to care about the environment, and then we cared about LGBTQ rights, and then we cared about black people's lives, because they matter. We also cared about black people in the 1960s. That one came back around for some reason, like bell bottoms. If you're struggling right now, if you've been laid off, if you've lost a loved one, we just want to remind you to buy our products. And remember, Republicans are racists, and they also want to control women's bodies, and they also hate immigrants.
I'm an immigrant, and I'm Republican.
Shut up! We at Gillette are good people, so buy our stuff. We know you have at least $1,200. All right, did we get it?
Is that good? Jeffrey, was that convincing? You think the middle class morons can buy our shit? I think I was convincing. I love this pandemic. Honestly, we're gonna make a fucking fortune.
Yeah, and that last little part is...
we know you have at least $1,200.
No, but did you stay till the end? It's like, Gillette. that last little audio is pretty good. So, yeah, that's a pretty good clip from Mr. Reagan. But the other thing is, did you watch his man, I got some weird videos showing him. I'm like, I don't wanna. Why is YouTube recommending that in the background there? Oh, you can't see mine. What I'm yeah. Sorry, I'm gonna go back to placeholder. So I've got MXR plays one of the recommended videos in the thing, and it's got a woman with an open shirt, and there's little happy faces over her. And I was like, oh, that's... that's what MXR plays. It's a channel. I do subscribe to them. It's pretty entertaining stuff, although they do have a little bit of clickbaity going on with their thumbnails and stuff. But so the Mr. Reagan has a video that came out. I think he re-released it today or yesterday, where he went to the protesters who were going outside and protesting the lockdown. It's like, yeah, maybe it was necessary to begin with, but extending it out this long is insanity. And so there's a big organization in California. He went out there interviewing people, and they were talking about there's a bunch of people who were saying, yeah, the only reason they keep doing this is because they know it's hurting the economy, and that's the only thing they know is going to stop Trump, and this is all political. That's why they're for these quarantines. Is
that's what I'm starting to think. It's been 2 months now. Not 2 weeks, 2 months.
Yeah,
what other reason they have to keep people locked down, and why they're passing stupid laws like jailing people for opening up business or arresting people for going to the park?
So when the quarantine was originally put in place and all these lockdown measures, Trump was saying, "I hope we can open it up by Easter," and then as it came, I was like, "Oh, that might have been a little too soon," but it's like, okay, I think to be safe, or from what I was seeing at the time, I was like, to be safe, into April, 1st of May, we should have opened things back up, and I think that should have been what we did is as soon as May came around, because we saw those the numbers decline as we were over that curve, or it's starting to flatten or lie out. That's where things should have opened back up again. They instead decided to extend it to the end of May, and I'm like, dude, that's way too long. And the longer it goes, the more difficult it's going to be to come back. So I think hopefully all the quarantine measures, as far as I think, like I said, the masks and the social or physical distancing is going to probably continue until a vaccine is out there, or probably maybe longer. But hey, everybody stay in home and don't go to work, that has to end sooner rather than later. So.
Ma'am, you can't hold your daughter. You have to stay 6 feet away.
Alright, so that's all I've got, and then so next week I'll talk a little bit more about the Flynn, because I know I kind of touched on that, but there's a lot more information about the whole Obamagate situation, which is ridiculous.
Yep.
And I'm sure by the time next Thursday comes around, there'll be more information regarding that. But yeah. So mostly be focusing on that. I don't know if you want to talk about the Aubrey situation, because we talked about that a little more than I expected to, but I think I covered kind of everything, and maybe there's more information that'll come out by then, but that'll be what we'll plan on talking about next week. So thanks anybody who ended up watching this, and we will see you on Thursday, hopefully. All crossing those fingers, and like, man, scheduling conflicts lately have been ridiculous, but plan is for the stream on Thursdays going forward. And on that note, I need to open up the window that actually lets me end this stream. Alright. So, thank you, and goodbye.